You score an interview at your top choice employer. You're nervous but excited. You spend the days before preparing. You even research the alma mater of your current employer. You're ready to answer the tough questions. But after you're asked a bevy of career-related questions, he asks you something that catches you completely off guard. So, do you plan on having children? How many of us have been asked that by friends, coworkers? What about your employer? It's happened to so many of us. There I was, sitting in a coffee shop, being interviewed for a position as an employment attorney, and the prospective employer, not my current employer, actually asked me as one of his questions, "So, do you plan on having kids?" I was shocked. Now, granted, I had just told him I was about to get married, but we all know that if it had been my soon-to-be husband sitting in that same interview with the same credentials and the same future forecasted, he wouldn't have been asked that same question. But why not? 3/4 of women entering the workforce will be pregnant and employed at some point. According to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or the EEOC, over the past decade, the number of pregnancy discrimination charges has increased by 35%. 1 in 5 charges of discrimination filed by women involve claims of pregnancy discrimination. Why is there such a rise in claims? This continues to baffle me for so many reasons. Some will tell you it's because more women are working while they're pregnant. Some will say it's because more women are working further into their pregnancies. And still others will tell you it's because more women are returning to the workforce after giving birth. And those are all probably true. We can acknowledge that in 1968, 10 years before the Pregnancy Discrimination Act was enacted, 50% of women quit their jobs after getting pregnant. And now, 40 years later, 65% of women are returning to the workforce after giving birth. What's driving this behavior? Why haven't opinions changed over the past 40 years? And why are women being tied to the same stereotypes? You've all heard it. Pregnant women and moms are constantly battling stereotypes about their abilities. She's just lazy. She doesn't want to work now that she has kids. She's costing this company too much money, and I have to replace her while she's on leave. She's been back a month and hasn't even caught up yet. I'm doing her work because she has to leave at 4 p.m. every day to pick up her kids from daycare. These are the types of hurtful, condescending, and stereotypical rhetoric that are dominating our workplace. Sociologists at the Clayman Institute for Gender Research and others have shown that compared to equally qualified men and women without children, working moms are less likely to be interviewed, hired, and promoted. They're paid less, and they're actually evaluated less positively. The common belief is that working moms just don't deserve these benefits as much as other employees because their family responsibilities render them somehow less capable or less engaged at work. I've even seen women discriminating against other pregnant women. I know fellow attorneys who've announced they were taking a maternity leave, and suddenly their female client referral sources have dried up because no one wants to send them a client knowing that they're going on maternity leave. I've encountered female employers who actually begrudge their female employees for taking a maternity leave because it costs them more money and creates more work. I've had friends who've returned from a maternity leave and suddenly been denied that much-deserved promotion or raise because all of a sudden their work just wasn't up to par. And this is happening across the board. In every industry, women are facing the same stereotypes. Research has shown that pregnancy discrimination claims arise in the industries where women work most. And what's shocking about this is that, as you can see here, the healthcare industry, which employs a majority of women, is also leading the way in pregnancy discrimination charges. At every level, women are facing the same biases and the same judgments. But these judgments don't even ring true. It's quite the contrary. Research has shown that on average, working moms are actually more engaged at work than fathers. And likewise, working moms show equal levels of motivation, commitment, and intensity as other employees. Under the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, working moms and pregnant women do have rights. As long as a woman can perform the major functions of her job, not hiring or firing her because of her pregnancy is actually against the law. It's against the law to deny a woman accommodations in the workplace if she needs them due to her pregnancy. It's against the law to dock a woman's pay or demote her to a lesser position because of her pregnancy. It's against the law to deny a woman benefits related to her pregnancy because she's unmarried. And it's against the law to deny a woman a place to breastfeed in the office. All of these are forms of discrimination, and all are illegal. But why aren't these rights being recognized? Why are women continually afraid to ask for an accommodation? Fearful to take a maternity leave? Ashamed that if they're not checking their email every few minutes while they're on maternity leave, somehow they're going to be forgotten or pushed out by their employer. I wish I could tell every employer, hey, you need better maternity leave policies. Don't you see that if you create a happy and a productive employee with a great maternity leave policy, in turn, that employee will actually make your business operations more productive as well? Well, I can, and I have given that speech to employers before, but that's really only half of it. Because until every woman knows her rights and stands up, slowly, if you're pregnant, to exercise those rights, pregnancy discrimination will continue to exist, and it will continue to rise. Currently, the U.S. is the only industrialized nation in the world without a government-mandated family leave policy. Our country lags woefully behind the rest of the world. As you can see right here on this map, a report from the UN International Labor Organization reported that 185 countries offer family leave policies, paid family leave policies, and only 3 countries don't. Right here: Oman, Papua New Guinea, and the United States. Out of those 185 countries, 78 of the countries actually offer paid paternity leave to new fathers as well. Now, granted, in the US, we do have the Family Medical Leave Act, or FMLA, but that should not be confused with the paid maternity leave being offered around the rest of the world. FMLA is not paid leave, and is only offered by companies who employ more than 50 employees, and it's only offered to employees who have been with the company for more than a year. So in reality, it's a benefit that many women just cannot afford to enjoy. But maternity leave is so crucial. It's a time devoted to transitioning to that new parental role. Now, some may assume maternity leave is like a vacation. But I can tell you from my personal experience, as I'm now currently on maternity leave, that is far from the truth. At first, every moment is devoted to your newborn. Constant feedings, sleepless nights, doctor's appointments, unexpected visits to the NICU, and changing what seems like an endless amount of poopy diapers is way more challenging and time-consuming than most would imagine, and myself included. I may have had some delusions of a long summer break with trashy TV marathons and my baby jogger on the beach, but maternity leave has proven to be quite a job. And studies have actually shown that the return to work immediately after childbirth is really difficult for the average family, detracting from maternal health and increasing self-reported levels of parenting stress. And these studies emphasize the need for better maternity leave policies that allow parents to take longer leave or to work reduced hours when they return immediately after childbirth. And these policies not only make for healthy and happier parents, but also for healthier and happier children. I surveyed 20 of my working mom and pregnant friends. I wanted to get an idea of what types of maternity policies are being offered by their employers. And these are women in all different industries: insurance, legal, finance, marketing, design, you name it. Most reported to me that they received an average of 6 weeks paid maternity leave. Some got more, some less, some got nothing at all. And the policies varied, but one thing remained the same. These policies have been left in the hands of the private sector, and as a result, there's a lack of consistency across the board. Employees just don't know what to ask for, what's fair, or what's average, or what's standard in the market. And likewise, employers are struggling to piece together a policy that is going to be competitive with other companies, but not cost them an arm and a leg. But the cost of attrition is actually so much higher than the cost of paid maternity leave. And a lot of companies just aren't factoring this in. And eventually, they're going to lose those good employees to companies who are getting it right. In 2012, an internal analysis at Google showed that they were losing women after they had babies. And apparently, the attrition rate for women was actually twice that of men. New moms had an attrition rate of twice that as men and other employees. So, in response, Google increased its maternity leave policy from 3 months to 5 and made it fully paid. And you know what happened? The attrition rate decreased by half. In the summer of last year, a bill that would have provided 12 weeks of paid maternity leave for U.S. women and U.S. women employees actually stalled in the U.S. House. It had received wide support from Democrats, but not a single Republican backer. Despite the polls that showed this policy would have been hugely popular across partisan lines. So who's getting it right? Well, here in Illinois, we're starting to make some progress. On January 15th of this year, the Pregnancy Workers Fairness Act, or the PWFA, went into effect, amending the Illinois Human Rights Act to impose new requirements on employers for pregnant applicants and employees, regardless of that employer's size, unlike the FMLA. So under the PWFA, employers are now required to provide accommodations for women related to pregnancy, childbirth, and other medically related conditions. Unless, of course, they can show that those accommodations would impose an undue hardship on the employer's business operations. So once again, more stipulations. We're making some progress, but are we really moving women forward? What are we going to do to move women forward and up in the workplace? How are we going to change employers' thinking? There is so much more progress to be made. What are the messages that we're going to tell ourselves? And what are the messages that we're going to tell our employers? And importantly, what are the messages that we're sending to our daughters, who someday want to have a family, but a career too? I wish the answer were easy, but it's going to take a lot more understanding and compassion and education before we can change the current biases and stereotypes and really get to a place of acceptance. We have rights, but we need to use them. This is about using the right rhetoric in the workplace, treating pregnant women with respect instead of disdain, treating working moms as capable producers of great work, breaking down the long-held stereotypes of pregnant women and moms, and educating our employers and our colleagues on maternity leave, pregnancy, and women's rights. If all women were to exercise all of their rights, it would help all women. If all women were to take a maternity leave when it's offered, or were to request that accommodation when they need it, and held themselves to the same standards that they want their employers and colleagues to respect, it would send a message to our colleagues, our employers, men, and women everywhere. Hey, these are our rights, and we're going to exercise them. Because after all, a rising tide lifts all pregnant bellies. Thank you.